Okay. We're live apparently on YouTube. Are we really though live on YouTube? Oh god, this is awful. It says we are, but I don't know if we are or not. Okay, that's better. Are we really though live on YouTube? Oh god, this is awful. Okay, apparently we are. Okay, so the sound is a little bit frustrating because the fan on the computer is too bloody loud. Too loud. Again, I'm not sure why, but there we are. Anyway, let's begin. So this channel is obviously a new one. I've had many more channels before this. I'm talking to you from that side, looking this way, because unfortunately the camera's on this side here and I can't get on that side because I haven't organised this desk properly yet, so it looks a bit awkward as if I'm ignoring people while I'm talking, just staring to the sky here. So the streams will be about UK stuff as well, the UK politics, but for now I'm just going to cover the Ukraine Russia today because I haven't done it for some time actually. As you can see, it says Russia there on the shirt, just in case they think I'm not a propagandist. Anyway, and what we're going to end up doing is talking about the stuff about what's going on recently, some of the news. I'm not about to go for every single thing because I think it's pointless if I did that. And what I might end up doing is playing some videos. I'm going to test that out because I'm not sure how good this laptop is. This laptop is actually very high spec, but my PC would have probably been better to use for this kind of streams. It works perfectly with the PC. So for now, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. I'll go through some articles, not many. There's one from the where is it here? Council of Europe. Interesting article here, written back on the 18th of September, and a few articles back in the past. When I say in the past, not too long ago, back in August, from Sky News. One from Europe as well. See, now it says warning. The stream something I can't. Doesn't say what it says about the stream. The bitrate is lower than recommended bitrate. Recommend use the stream bitrate. I can't do anything about that though. This is always going to be a problem. What am I supposed to do about that? This gives me a headache. Just try and get this right. Anyway, let's see what we can do with this. There'll be some information here from post on Telegram. If you want to get the latest on Ukraine Russia, just go to t.me/thenationstate. Maybe I can just show on the screen what it looks like when you go to that. If I can spell it right, it'll help actually. The nation state. So if I share the screen now, I should be able to share it. It says. Okay, so when you got to t.me/thenation, you get this, and it'll say open link, which of course you can open up directly into your phone if you've got Telegram on there, or on your tablet, and of course you can get on your PC as well. So if you're on a computer, laptop, you can open the link, it'll take you straight there. Okay, so that's the one there. This just basically has all of the latest news from all these channels on Telegram, from Ukraine, from Russian ones as well, and it gives you the latest what's happening. I haven't got time to put them all on my Twitter account because it's just too much time. It takes far too long. Just go to t.me/thenationstate, you'll get the latest information there. You're not going to find it anywhere else. Okay? Right, so let's go through here what we have. First of all, this is actually a video, this is what I'm going to test right now, from Eric Prince, who was the founder of the United States PMC Blackwater. Okay, have a listen to this. Let's get on the screen first, see how it happens. Here one. Excuse me, sorry. So this is the guy in question. If I can share my screen, maybe that'll do. Oh, geez, see the trend. I'm getting tired. Here we go. Let's see how it plays. The audio should be okay because I've asked it to share the audio from the video.
Trump is right in his instincts to bring that war to a close. There's about a 0% chance the Ukrainians are going to take all around that. They should have made a deal a year and a half ago already. I think they're in a war of attrition right now. They're back to literally World War I style trench warfare style tactics, but also with the addition of precision drones, precision rockets to make it an even more lethal place for infantrymen to try to survive. Russia has a lot more people and a lot more munitions. The Western European and American defense industry is vastly behind and vastly too expensive to really be relevant. I think it should be a stark wake-up call for America that our weapons are not doing that well there. They're not in super high demand. Some of the stuff might work for a month or two, but then Russian electronic warfare figures out a way to jam it, the navigation, the command link, or whatever, to make it useless. And the idiots, politicians that say, oh, we're degrading the Russian army and we're destroying all this equipment. No, the Russian army is significantly better, more lethal now than they were when they started. I think President.
That's interesting, really, isn't it? Because people watch my stream. Oh, I'm on mute. People watch my streams in the past would know I've been saying the exact same thing over and over again for maybe, well, about 6 months into the conflict actually. So in 2022, I've been pretty much saying the same thing over and over again about this. That the propagandist online will just say to you that Russia's losing because they're losing so many men, even though they've got no proof of this. I'm still waiting for them to show us the proof, not to mention proof of the Bucha massacre as well, which didn't happen. We're still waiting for the evidence for that. But regarding the situation of troops, the number of deaths that we've seen, Russia's the ones that I could assume are high, but not as high as they're making out to be. So is Ukraine's. And then Ukraine, you can argue, is pretty much worse. Because those numbers are never going to be revealed by the Ukraine government, particularly Zelensky. And something this guy touched on, if I've got the words here that he spoke about this. And it says here that the office of the president tries to buy any information about the difficult situation for AFU on the front, but Western think tanks and experts agree on one thing, that dragging out the war could lead to disaster in Ukraine. And he managed to say about, I think President Trump's right, I mentioned the video. But a key part about this was, he goes, something might work for a month or two, but then the Russian electronic warfare system finds a way to jam it, navigation, command link, whatever, to render it useless. This was said about maybe 100 times during my streams for the last 3 years. So I'm just so glad that even the person who knows more about the military than I do, Eric Prince at the US PMC Blackwater, is finally catching up to reality, along with everybody else. This is why people don't talk about this anymore, because they can't spin it in their favour. The people who cover video games, drama online, with people particularly on the right, can't talk about this because they don't know what they're talking about half the time. In addition to that, none of them have been covering this, like myself, like others out there, since day one. And we can see right from the beginning what was going to happen. Here we are. So we go to the article from, this is over at Council of Europe Freedom of Expression, it's called. Close out the video so it's shown on the screen. It says here, building societal resilience to disinformation, launch of the Resist project, as they call it. Disinformation is one of the most pressing threats to democracy in Europe, undermining trust in institutions and polarizing societies. To counter this challenge, the Council of Europe today launched a Strengthening Societal Resilience to Disinformation in Europe, known as the Resist project. Resist will help member states prepare or strengthen national strategies against disinformation across culture, education, media, and democracy. By providing practical tools, guidance, and cooperation, it says. It's a bit blank here, so I can see it a bit further down here. The screen's a bit too bright as well. Here we go. That's a bit more bright now, as it was before. By providing practical tools, guidance, and cooperation platforms, the project will foster a comprehensive approach. The project directly supports a new democratic pact, the Council of Europe's roadmap for democratic renewal, by assessing vulnerabilities and promoting coordination, action in line with its three pillars: learning and practicing democracy, protecting democracy, and innovating for democracy. A lot of democracy there, as it seems. The launch followed a high-level conference on disinformation in Malta, linking international debate with concrete action. The reps from Croatia, Greece, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Belarus in exile, and the Financial Mechanism Office of the EEA and Norway grants joined the event, discussed methodology, work structure, and next steps. Quote, "We are breaking new ground with the Resist project because culture, youth work, and education are largely untapped resources for making citizens more aware and resilient to this information. Thanks to the EANG support, we can go beyond the classic anti-discrimination approaches, which are clearly not sufficient." You see, most people won't have a problem with this. In general, it's okay. I think it's a good idea. But who gets to determine this information? It does seem to me that they want to be the ones in charge, which is not necessarily a good thing. So in practice, it looks good. It's a good idea. But I don't really trust them, nor should anyone else for that matter. I must move on. So UA Resident, which is a pro-Ukraine Telegram account, our source in the office of the President reported that the office of the President has formed two strategies for the financial track for 2026, emphasizing a protracted war and a possible peace format election. Andriy Yermak plans to get the EU globalist funding for the war track. The key term there, globalist, refers to pretty much US. Funding for the war track, with bidding using the narrative of possible peace if Ukraine doesn't get additional $20 to $30 billion, that is, and will be asking for resources from Trump and security guarantees to achieve peace. This is why the 2026 budget is shaped with a focus on elections, as the Office of the President does not now understand what strategy will be implemented next year. A few other things here. Following up from that Blackwater video that we saw, a Ukrainian officer with the call sign Alex has described the situation in Kharkiv region as extremely worrying. Let's bring it down here on a second. Let's get this down here. Extremely worrying for the defense forces. According to him, the Russians have actually created a kill zone in most of the region with the help of attack UAVs. Thus, he gave an example of a recent strike on a car on the dam on the, this is quite a long name here, Pechenskoye Reservoir. The object is 45 kilometers away from the front line, but still came under attack by drones. In fact, a kind of pocket has been formed on this section of the front, where, as the officer emphasizes, there is no question of operational encirclement for the Ukrainian armed forces, but the constant enemy strikes, referring to Russia, are creating serious difficulties for the Ukrainian forces. Alex compares the situation with that situation on the Izium-Slavansky motorway, where the mass drone attacks have largely become a reality. According to him, if Russia ramps up production of wings and mother drones, the problems will be even bigger. Quote, "It can get even worse if someone relaxes or someone decides to bolt." It goes here. At the same time, the Ukrainian authorities still pretend that everything's under control, and all because Zelensky has assured himself that the state is strong and the front is stable. Hence the new formula of Promogi. Is that how you pronounce that? It's a translation from the Russian or Ukrainian language, Promogi. If the whole of Ukraine has not yet been captured, then it's a victory, as the saying goes. For the same reason, he refused to withdraw troops from the Donetsk region, where the Ukraine military are actually dying for territories of waiters, it says, and to rescue AFU brigades from collapsing sections on the front, despite daily colossal losses. And it says here, the ratio of dead, judging by the body exchanges and the OSINT analyst calculations, is already 1 to 42, though not in Ukraine's favour. It's quite something that, isn't it? 1 to 42. Okay, right, I'm just getting this ready here. Second video as well coming up. Okay, let's do that now. Okay. Trying to get it. So this is actually in Ukrainian, I believe. Okay. So I'll play in whatever it says in Ukrainian, and I'll actually translate it for you as well. If I just get on the screen, share the screen, here we go.
Часто буває на кладовищі, от я вчора була на кладовищі в Чернігові, і той квадрат, який був ще вільний 1,5 місяці тому, повністю заповнений. Це відповідь на те, що нам потрібно не гроші шукати на продовження війни, а нам потрібно зберегти націю і знайти будь-які шляхи для того, щоб мир склався і відбувся, і щоб все-таки війна ця кровопролитна закінчилася. От щодо сіл, просто заїдьте в село, вони пусті, дійсно вигрібають останніх. Зверніть увагу, як працюють на блокпостах. Вони ж не зупиняють модні машини, вони зупиняють звичайні машини, які не вартують великих грошей. Тому тут підход щодо поділу суспільства і підход, знаєте, коли одні можуть купити собі місце, а інші не можуть. Так не має бути рівність. Більше того, якби були залучені до війни всі, вона б вже давно закінчилася. Бо я думаю, що сильні цієї країни не хотіли би класти свою.
Okay, not that. Even I don't understand it myself because obviously I don't speak the language. That in the picture there is the Ukraine MP Anna. I'll probably get a Bosch name here. Skrohod. Let me get the actual name because I think it's best if I do that. I'll tell you what she said in the second. I'll just go here. Let's go here. The name is, yeah, that is correct, Anna Skrokot. Yeah. Okay. So what she was, summing up what she was saying, to make it easier for people to understand what the hell is going on here. In the information here, cemeteries are overflowing with graves of defenders. Villages are empty. The last people are being raided from them. We do not need to look for money to continue the war, but to find any ways to preserve the nation and bring peace. According to her, if everyone was involved, the war would have ended long ago. Quote, pay attention to how they work at roadblocks. It's not like they stop fancy cars. They stop cars that don't cost a lot of money. Here we're talking about the division of society. It should not be like this. The MP is convinced. Not my words, her words, of course. Saying how difficult things are for Ukraine because people try to paint a rosy picture. Alright, let's move on. There's a Reuters piece. Go on the screen here. Reuters piece that was referring to Trump. How he's kind of trying to shift his position, but Trump doesn't know what he's doing half the time. He talks bullshit for the most part. And it says, and moreover, this was clear to us a month ago when we wrote about it, referring to Reuters, but propaganda is trying to work to promote the necessary narrative that Trump has changed his position. Here are the key points of the article itself. Western European sources bluntly interpret Trump's comments as a signal of distancing, as in to say, it looks like he's saying goodbye. Next key point. Eastern European diplomats believe that this is a political gesture, that Ukraine now becomes solely a European affair. Third point. German Foreign Minister Johann Wedpol, probably pronounced that correctly for once, commenting on the situation, admitted the time has now come for the EU to get more involved, to increase its sovereignty, and to look for new financial and military instruments to support Kiev. There is a clear trend here. Washington is stepping aside, allowing its allies to pay for the Ukrainian project themselves. Europe is facing a dilemma. On one hand, the need to save Kiev. On the other hand, growing fatigue and limited resources, not to mention money. Trump's signal is not just rhetoric, but a real mark of the limits of the American involvement. Back to Telegram from Infopolitica. According to BBC Ukraine currently has only 28.7 million residents. Experts warn that by 2100, which is a long way to go, and will be dead by that point, so I'm not going to care, the country's population may almost halve to 15 million. But it's not only the consequences of the war. The negative trend began long before it. This shows that even our mobilization resource is far inferior to that of the Russian Federation. After all, at this time Russia, despite demographic problems, the population is kept at about 150 million citizens. Discontent grows in Zelensky's party. None of his rivals are concerned about mobilization of power, says Politico. According to a newspaper, at a recent closed meeting of the faction, Zelensky criticized members of this faction, activists and journalists, for, quote, failing to create a consistently positive image of Ukraine in the eyes of Western partners, i.e. propaganda. Commenting on reports about corruption and human rights violations, he also said that Ukrainians voicing negative assessments of the situation inside the country distracted attention from what's really important, the war and strengthening support from foreign allies. Legitimately Post, which is a pro-Ukraine one, but they're like Zelensky at all. Our source reports every day they record 100 drone arrivals, and a lot of it says it's close to the real of the AFU, what 50 to 100 kilometers from the front line. These drones are usually recorded as shot down, lost, but they all fly in on fortresses, UAV sites, AFU warehouses, etc., near the front line. Russia's been running older versions of the drones on LBS for a long time, as there is no point in sending them deep inland. 85% will be shot down by simple mobile teams. On the deep rear, advanced modernized drones, 2/3 are already running. Every military officer will tell you there are a lot of old drones on the LBS. They fly dozens of them on AFU positions, and Bankova simply hides this information. The Russians have been using this tactic since the beginning of the year, where we were the first to actually talk about it, referring to legitimately. Such a drone can be very well destroy the fortifications and positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. Legitimately also mentioned, as usual, we have uncovered the game of Bazugla, who's an absolute nuisance online, in particular nuisance to Ukraine, and she is pro-Ukraine by the way, and the office of the president on the example of phase of Kupiansk. Mariana is referred to Yermak's puppet. Yermak is the right-hand man of Zelensky. Always makes noise at the moment when reserves have already been sent to the crisis area and the situation is likely to stabilise just for a while, then collapse again. Bazuglia never writes about this crisis in advance, only at the behest of the OP, being the office of the president. Already Zelensky loudly declares that the AFU could recapture the centre of Kupiansk as they have transferred experienced units there. According to our data, the 3rd Assault Force. Colleagues write that there's been withdrawn from these reserves. These were withdrawn from the Mansk and northern direction, where the positions are about to fall. All our sources indicate the AFU will not be able to plug the holes for long, and disasters are already brewing. Time will tell. More from legitimately, the authorities are once playing with the lives of young people as a bargaining chip. The decision to open the borders for boys aged 18 to 22 is likely, as we wrote, to turn out to be a temporary concession. And now there are louder and louder voices in the Rada, being Ukraine Parliament, about closing them again. about which we hear the voices of MP Kostenko and Kohachuk, Deputy Commander of the 3rd Army Corps of the AFU. And this rhetoric hides the main thing. The authorities are preparing a new wave of mobilization. The consequences of the current wave of mobilization has already been deplorable. In Kanev, for example, the streets were plunged into darkness, it says, due to the lack of lighting, because the only electrician was mobilized who lives in that area, that village. This is not just everyday detail, it is a symbol. Each new draft tears the social fabric. Doctors disappear from hospitals, teachers from schools, public utilities are left without specialists, Bankova rips out the last roots on which the remnants of the city's livelihoods are still hanging on. And all this against the background of a demographic catastrophe which was mentioned earlier. Today there are over 28.7 million people registered in Ukraine. Even if we mobilize all men, the mobilization potential of the Ukraine and Russian Federation is inconsiderable. We will lose in this comparison. Russia has over 150 million people, and even with our own decline in numbers, the potential is in their favour. In 20 years, Ukraine could lose several million people to migration, low birth rates and deaths at the front. This means that in a generation, we risk of ending up with a country with empty cities, no labour force, and a catastrophic skew in the age pyramid. At the same time, those who will be left from the young will be people crippled by the front. If not physically disabled, then people with PTSD. Everything which I've mentioned in my previous streams many times. Such a future does not speak in favour of Zelensky's lobbying for war. It requires protection of the nations and people, which means peace is needed. But instead, Zelensky and his team think only about how to hold on to power by putting young people on the mobilisation list. But also goes to people like Trump, of course, because Trump keeps talking about stopping the war, but he won't stop funding it, and stop giving weapons and God knows what else to Ukraine. It goes on here. The tragedy is that these 18 to 22-year-olds should have been the basis of post-war Ukraine, but they want to turn them into expendable material. I don't want to put myself on very silent. The phone keeps going off. Yeah, so it says here, the tragedy is that the 18, 22-year-olds should have been the basis of post-war Ukraine, but we want to turn them into expendable materials, so they're running away while they have a chance. Okay. Last but not least, this is actually a very, very key thing to think about when they talk about the Russian losses. This is a key part to always go back to every time I tell you this. According to foreign policy, Russia's developed and is implementing a strategy of, quote, non-contact military operations in Ukraine. The Russian armed forces are relying on large-scale use of kamikaze drones combined with cruise missiles to wear down the enemy, overwhelm air defences and inflict significant economic damage without conducting large-scale ground operations. So you keep hearing this thing about Russia have lost millions, they keep losing millions, and God knows what else. That is not true at all. There's actually no source they've actually provided to say this is actually happening. Apart from, well, we keep killing them apparently. Well, is that why you keep losing land? Is that why Ukraine can't actually commit to a counter-offensive? Because they don't have the resource to do it. They don't. So all you're doing is just holding off the line as much as you can. But in this case, Russia using so many drones and cruise missiles and God knows what else. And they keep saying that, well, we keep killing them. No, you're not killing many of them at all. I'm also hearing, again, I'm not sure whether this is true, that Trump has given a go-ahead to Ukraine to try and hit Moscow with cruise missiles. It's like, are you actually insane to do that? Well, okay, go for it. Just insane. I think everything's going to happen. Anyway, so let's leave it there. There's going to be a short stream anyway, because I was going to talk a lot about Ukraine and Russia, because I go all day about it. We're going to try and do them in shorter streams and try and capture more information. But if you want the latest, please do go and visit t.me/thenationstate. In fact, I'll put it in the chat if I can here, so you'll see it right at the end of the stream. If I'm allowed, I think I'm allowed to put a link in there. It'd be strange if I can't, since it's me actually putting the link down. There we go. That's the link there. If they click on it, it'll ask you to open the link. If you're on your phone, you have to download the app, of course. That same goes for a tablet, laptop, or PC. Okay. See, it's just a reminder. They keep saying how, Russia won't commit to peace. They won't do this. That. Russia made their terms clear. It's pretty obvious what they are. They're not going to change them. And to pretend that, well, we're trying to compromise is not true, because what Trump said just gave it away. The Ukrainians trying to take everything back. Well, good luck with that. Insane. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the weekend. I might do a stream tomorrow on the UK news, digital ID, what's going on in London, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of rubbish out there from people, as usual, pushed online. And if Reform want to win, you've got to do a lot more better than stop attacking people personally and talk about swans and paracetamol. You've got to talk about the economy, crime, and housing, and you win. You win.